Let's delve straight into the focus of the day. Now, the story is clear. Thousands of young people from Edo State have over the years taken dangerous routes abroad, lured by the promise of greener pastures, but many end up exploited, stranded, or suffering. In response, the Edo State government has rolled out a package of interventions, including partnerships with international agencies, awareness campaigns, and reintegration centers. Today, we pick apart not just the what of these efforts, but the why and how, especially in the Niger Delta context, where migration is not just a personal decision, but a communal and regional challenge. We are joined by an aide to the governor with his ears and eyes on the ground in relation to government policies and programs. Chief Andrew Emwanta, Special Advisor to the Edo State Governor on Legal Matters, joins us virtually. You're welcome on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sylvia. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our viewers at home.
Thank you very much for joining us again. Well, I don't know how far that has changed, but Edo State has long been labeled a major origin point for irregular migration in Nigeria. And according to the international organization on this issue, there have been concerns around how effective this has been managed in the past years, looking at successive governments and all of that. But when you look at the data, Edo accounted for roughly 37% of the returnee migrants in one program since 2017. Well, successive governments have existed since then, but given that scale, how would you assess the current state government's migration control strategy? Has it moved from rhetoric to measurable progress?
Yeah, thank you. Much as I want to start by commending the previous efforts of successive administrations in Edo State, but I think what will interest viewers is to note that it was this present administration that actually inaugurated the Edo State Migration Agency. Before now, they used to have a committee, which of course didn't have the full statutory powers, to interface with foreign embassies and agencies like the IOM, that's International Association of Migration. The present Director General of the Edo State Migration Agency, Chief has the lot. I've put some of his recent visits, to the European Union headquarters in Brussels and other places that he had the opportunity of letting his foreign governments and authorities know what the Edo State government has done and the need for closer collaboration. Because as one that has looked at the provisions of the establishment law of that agency, that's the Edo State Migration Agency, the idea is to ensure but to help them get skills that will help them to be competitive. And if they now choose to travel through the regular means, they will not become a burden, but a blessing to the country where they find themselves. And towards that end, the Edo State government will be hosting ambassadors from the European Union countries, I think the last week of November, so that there will be some form of commitments on the part of these foreign countries and of course on the part of the Edo State government on how we can finally deal with this problem of irregular migration, or better still to bring it to the barest minimum.
Oh, all right, Chief.
But when you ask me,
okay,
I think a whole lot of progress has been made.
All right. Well,
irregular migration.
All right. In November 2024 now, the Nigerian Immigration Service, NIS, Edo Command, raised the alarm at rising numbers of irregular migrants entering Nigeria and noted that Edo was one of the flashpoints. But when you look at the situation currently, why is it that Edo is a state of interest when we talk about illegal migration and migration generally as a scourge in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you. Remember, when you view Edo from a geographical standpoint, you discover that we are the center of Nigeria. That's why I believe the people who give us that slogan, the heartbeat of Nigeria, because we are the heart of Nigeria. So when you come into a country at times, you are struggling a safe haven from where you can easily, navigate. Maybe you go to the south, the east, and the west. I would say, unfortunately, Edo happens to be at that point. And again, because of our very commercial nature in terms of the kind of businesses we have, and the fact that we have people from different parts here, so it's usually a safe haven for such persons trying to find their way, albeit unfortunately. But I think the immigration has a duty to see that borders, just the way you have the semi-border and other fringes, so Edo should have more of these, immigration points. And I think the Edo State Migration Agency will have to make that case with the Nigerian Immigration Service on how we can fortify our entry points to prevent some of all these illegal immigrants from coming in.
Okay, well, when we look at the state and its restructured task force in the Edo State Migration Agency now in 2024-2025, adopting what they call the 4 Ps model, that's prevent, protect, prosecute, partner. In practical terms, what has changed operationally? Are we seeing new prosecutions, new partnerships, new budget allocations, or has that approach been changed completely? What sort of model is working currently in Edo State when we talk about this issue of migration?
Okay, you're asking about the model.
Yes.
That the Edo State government has adopted.
Precisely.
I think at the level of intergovernmental collaboration, we talk more of partnership. But in terms of the end beneficiaries of what Edo State government serves to do under the Edo State Migration Agency law, we have the 3-arrow model, or the arrow 3 model of readmit, rehabilitate, and reintegrate. Readmit means that you assist these foreign governments in bringing back these persons, of course, who have traveled irregularly, working closely with agencies like the Nigerian Immigration Service and the government returning such persons. And for us as a state, over the years, we've been able to create shelters. And again, this present administration now wants to decentralize these shelters so that for those who are from Edo North, we provide shelters for them in Edo North in the Tura district. For those in Edo Central, we provide shelter for them in the Tura district. And of course, those in Edo South, that the Benin-speaking area, we have one here. So it's just to create 2 more shelters in Edo Central and in Edo North. And the reason why the governor will meet with the various embassies is to advise that instead of investing so much in keeping these people in detention centers abroad, feeding them, and the cost of repatriating them, why not just invest in these shelters so that while they are here, we can prepare them, for life after repatriation. Give them life skills, and it is with these skill sets that they cannot even go back to these embassies and travel regularly. And again, we also want to make this case. Foreign governments should realize their cost of visas, sort of discourages those that would have wanted to travel regularly. So they need to review their visa fees. That's why people prefer to travel by land. So, and again, the conditions attached, particularly countries like the US and Canada, I think there's need for them to review their immigration rules.
All right.
They even have genuine persons that will want to travel, but when they consider the stress, the hazards they go through, and the cost of even traveling that way, is one now will make them to stay back when their visa expires.
All right, Chief Emwanta, let's look at the issue of awareness and community mobilization efforts and how it has expanded in the past. Now, traditional and religious leaders across Edo were trained in migration management as in August 2023. And students have also formed peer groups to campaign against trafficking. In your view, how effective are these grassroots interventions in shifting attitudes? How do you even assess the measure their impacts have had in the past and even in the nearest future in Edo State?
Thank you. I must commend all the categories of persons you have listed. But just to say that now that we have this agency, the agency is out to go out for what I'll call advocacy campaigns, churches, schools, and it will interest you to note that when somebody says in church, he gives a testimony, and people are happy for him. Some of them don't even bother to ask, how are you traveling abroad? And even when somebody's parent says, oh, my child has successfully crossed, you don't want to ask, how did the person, So those are issues, I think, for me are germane. So the church has a very big role in educating their members, because if you look at a good number of Christians in the South, because the South is South-dominated, they go to church. So I think the agency will work closely with the Christian Association of Nigeria, Muslims, bodies, and other, traditional groups, so that they know that we have this new law. Of course, traveling irregularly has its own implication, and for them to now help us pass that message in enlightening their church members, for those who are Muslims, when they go to their mosque, a time should be created to create that enlightenment campaign because of the dangers that irregular migration poses in the life of these persons, and for underage persons who travel irregularly, some of them even die in transit. So that is what the agency is doing, and they need to work moving forward closely with churches, schools, and other groups, markets, and what have you.
All right, well, Chief Emwanta, those reintegration efforts now for returnees have included vocational training and business support via IOM-led programs. But data also shows many returnees remain vulnerable. Is it possible to ensure that perhaps reintegration goes beyond training to real employment or economic inclusion? And what tracking mechanisms are existing currently when you look at ascertaining those that have come back and how they are being rehabilitated?
The third arrow in the arrow model, which the Edo State Government has adopted, is reintegration. And that also includes where you have job opportunities, because most of these persons are graduates. And that's what I think the Edo State Government should be doing, because the law even allows for that. The Edo State Migration Agency also allows them to come back to their normal lives. They are not entitled to whatever they would have been entitled to if they were around. And I think that for us, because this agency is new, so in the future I expect, when we invite the Director General of this agency, these are the kind of successes we want to share. Because I assure you that a whole lot is happening, and after the European ambassadors on November, I know a whole lot of packages deals would have been sealed, and in a matter of months, we'll start seeing the results, particularly in the area of skill acquisition, vocational training, and properly integrating these people. If you have nurses amongst them, we ensure they get into our health sector. We have artisans and what have you. And the idea of rehabilitation too is for them to also get skills. And it does not just end in 2 months. It may be a long training. Even for those who want to go back to school, maybe to technical schools, for those who have JAM, or other WIC, for them to write JAM, supporting them to go back to write their JAM exams and gain proper admission either into colleges of education, polytechnics, or universities. So, but I can assure you that the agency is out to fulfill its statutory mandate of assuring those who come back of full rehabilitation and integration into society.
All right, Chief Emwanta, well, from a governance...
we are celebrating our 1 year.
Okay.
In office as a government, and there's a whole lot of activities lined up. Starting from on the 9th, the governor will be commissioning projects in Edo Central, Then, of course, a day in between, Edo South, then Edo North. Then on the 12th of this month of November, which of course is the anniversary proper, because that was the day the governor was sworn in last year, we'll be having a colloquium where, the achievements of this present administration will be discussed, and a whole lot of eminent personalities will be attending that colloquium. So for me, Edo State is out to roll out the drums in thanking God for 1 year of good governance and massive development, cutting across, infrastructure, security, education, health, and other, particularly agricultural sector too, because a whole lot of investments have been made there. So it will be a time of stock taking, but also to project some of the things that government will be doing in the next 3 years of the first term of the Senator Mobile administration.
Yes, I'm sure before we conclude this conversation, we'll have a minute to look at a lineup of activities ahead of this celebration. But from a governance standpoint, there is often a gap between federal policy and state implementation. Now, the federal government in 2025 said illegal migration is endemic across all 774 local government areas. I'm curious, what unique challenges does Edo face that might differ from other states? And how is the state adapting its strategy accordingly?
I think, as I earlier mentioned, our location is such that when we say irregular migration, a good number of these persons are not essentially Edo people. Some of them are Edo residents, right? But because of their takeoff point, right, is Benin City, the assumption is that these persons are from Edo State. And because some of these persons live in our state for a very long time, they know how to speak our local languages. So I think this idea of stereotyping, most of these people who come from abroad, they are from Edo, I don't think it's correct. It's like this problem of prostitution. We have people come from other parts of the country. You see them in Benin City, and the assumption that Edo is involved in acts of prostitution. The average Edo person has this sense of pride, this sense of personal, and again, remember that we've existed as a kingdom for centuries. We had a civilized system of government. Even when countries like Portuguese came, they commended Edo that we had streets paved, we had even street lights, made from this local land. I'm talking as far back as it. So I think the federal government must, as a matter of urgency, provide that. At the federal level, I don't know if we have a migration agency outside the Nigerian Immigration Service, but I think there will be need for closer collaboration between the Nigerian Immigration Service and the State Migration Agency, so that we will not see ourselves duplicating functions, but to work hand in hand in building synergies.
All right, Chief Emwanta, let's still stay on some data. Now, a 2019 report indicated that Edo Task Force had received 4,764 trafficked returnees. In more recent years, what is applicable in terms of these numbers? Have they risen, or there's a decline?
I started by saying that what we had before was a task force. We now have an agency, right? The Edo State Migration Agency. And what I can tell you is that I may not have, what I may not give you will be the figures, right? Because I will always want to work with accuracy. So I think in a subsequent edition of this program, the Director General, because I spoke to him before coming on this program, he has assured me that he will come on this program to give you all the statistics. But as we speak, in our shelter presently, we have between 15 to 18 persons, right, who are there undergoing rehabilitation. And it's not like a permanent shelter, it's a transit point, and it is from there the process of integrating them back into society begins.
All right,
That's what I can say.
Let's talk about perception now. Borrowing the words of the former the president of the United States, Donald Trump, recently made rather unflattering comments about Nigeria. And I'd like you to give some perspective as to how far-reaching those comments are. When we talk about the immigration issues in the country, does it cause more tension? When we talk about migration, illegal migration that is, when such scathing remarks are made?
I think what Donald Trump said, if you ask me, is uncharitable to describe the most populous country on the continent as a disgraced country. I don't think we are disgraced, because when you look at the number of Nigerians who are excelling across all fields of human endeavor, not just in Nigeria, but in countries like the US, Britain, and elsewhere. So Donald Trump as a president is entitled to his opinion. So you cannot control his opinion. But we as a people, we will now have to control our internal security. And the Edo State government is doing a whole lot in combating problems of kidnapping and cultism. And again, the federal government, of course, is no longer resting on its oars, but has sort of redoubled its efforts so that we don't have an incursion of a foreign entity, or rather we can solve our problem internally. This problem may stand today, but I think it's a wake-up call for the Nigerian government, and as a state government, as we are also working closely with the federal government to see how we can tackle this problem of insecurity. Most of these people that come to create these killings or cause these killings in Nigeria, most of them are not Nigerians. They come from other African countries. With the problem of Libya, some of these people over the years have migrated. So it's a clear and present danger. What we appeal to President Donald Trump is to support the Nigerian government. I know the Nigerian government needs support. The American government has been very supportive. They should not stop those aids, but rather increase it. We are not even saying that you cannot bring your military to support us, but the idea of an invasion, I don't think invasion will do anybody good. We know what happened in Iraq. We know what in Libya. Even remember what happened in Somalia. I mean, diplomacy should be the way forward, and I expect the Nigerian government to engage them using all the available diplomatic routes.
Chief Emwanta, well, conversely, could Trump's remarks actually serve as a wake-up call, forcing the leaders of Nigeria to reflect on why a country so rich in oil, culture, and intellect has become synonymous with economic flight?
Okay. Economic flight that makes our people to go out, albeit both regularly and irregularly. Is that your question?
Yes. And then people are always eager to leave the country.
Economic flight. Even in America, you have a whole lot of people who have gotten, to a point where, they complain about lack of access to some of the basic services. We have poor people globally. Even Jesus said the poor will always be with us. But the present government is doing a whole lot. You look at this idea of giving students loans, right? Reducing the burden of homes. This is one government that has taken care of retirees. I give an example. Retired judges, they will commend the present administration because they have harmonized their pensions. Because these people have families, they go to the market. You look at what the government is doing. Instead of this trader money that the previous administration did, we are trying to build infrastructure. The coastal roads that the president is doing, supporting states, increasing the allocation of states, granting autonomy to local government. I think the Tinubu administration should be given a chance. And I think it is only when we give this government a chance that we'll be able to assess. You cannot assess a government in 2 years. If I am to compare this present administration to the past administration of Buhari, I think Tinubu is on the right trajectory. The problem of insecurity did not start today, but what I think this present government needs is support. But I think we should go into diplomatic talks with the US. We need their aid, we need their support. Because across states, there's either one intervention or the other by the US government, and we need that aid to continue. Whatever it is that may have offended President Donald Trump, as a people, we are ready to go into talks with America just for us to protect the interest of both those who have been killed and potential victims. It is not a good thing that Nigerians are being killed. Yes, we admit that, yes, we have this incident, but we need support. We don't need condemnation. Invading Nigeria leads to humanitarian crisis. So I think the Nigerian government should engage the American government so that issues like this can be resolved on the table of dialogue, not to the barrel of a gun.
All right, Chief Emwanta. Well,
not their support in smoking out all these very, very wicked, killers who go into communities, kill people for no just cause.
All right, let's talk with the coming celebration, 1 year of the administration of Governor Monday Okpebholo. What are some of those highlights that are expected, especially in relation to this particular conversation of illegal immigration and irregular immigration generally Are we expecting some new introductions into how it is being managed and, of course, efforts of government generally?
I will start with our program for the 1-year anniversary. As I earlier said, on the 8th, the governor will be commissioning projects in Edo Central. And the idea is that having your 1-year celebration should not be a time for fanfare. It should be a time for stock taking. And that is why the governor wants to commission all the projects he has done within 1 year across the three senatorial districts. As I said, Edo North is going to, or rather, he starts with Edo Central on the 8th of November. Edo South is on the 10th. Then on the 11th, he will commission projects in Edo North. And most of these projects, let me tell you why what he's doing has direct impact on youth, empowerment. Most of these projects, unlike in the past, the previous administration will bring people from Lagos, but there's high level of local content in most of these projects. If the government is doing a road construction in a particular community, we insist, we tell the contractor, we must engage the youth of that community, which was absent in the past. We had artisans come from the west, places like Lagos, Ogun, to come and do road construction in the project. Even up to when they do their Lord Barrow Summit, they bring everything, the caterers, they brought them from Lagos. The printing job, they took them to Lagos. So this one government that wants to encourage local businesses, empower the youths, and even for youths that find themselves back as irregular migrants, they will have blue-collar jobs. In most of these projects, Edo State government is doing.
So that Edo people will see the difference between the evil party called PDP and the saint party called Edo.
So there's a whole lot of activities lined up. And as I earlier mentioned, the general of the agency will be appearing on the future edition of this program to tell you some of the achievements we've made and a roadmap we have in dealing with the problem of irregular migration.
Thank you very much, Chief Andrew Emwanta, Special Advisor to the Governor of Edo State on legal matters. Appreciate your views and ideas on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, in the end, migration isn't just about crossing borders. It's about crossing the thin line between hope and despair. And while the embassies may tighten their doors and rhetoric abroad may sting our pride, the real solution must be homegrown. A lot of people believe it is in jobs, in justice, and in the dignity of staying. Edo has taken another step to rewrite that story, but until every young person believes that their dream can thrive right here, the story of migration may still remain unfinished. We'll catch you again tomorrow for another fresh edition of the program Niger Delta Today. My name is Xavier Robert. Have a terrific day. Bye for now.